The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. We're open line through till 1. So the floor is yours. Text 166 177. WhatsApp 166 177. Email the studio at manxradio.com, or call 66 13 68. Well, the planning committee have got their work cut out. There's that new sewage treatment works in Peel, recommended for approval. We'll see about that, and what's happening with the big housing estate at Sulby Riverside. So thoughts on that or anything else? Text, email, call, WhatsApp. Howard's with us first today. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. I just thought I'd jump in fairly handy here. I noticed, it was on your websites and various other places, that an individual, a male I think it was, had put a petition in appertaining to the problems with not fitting the horse tram sections in, not completing the horse trams through to the sea terminal. Now, he'd put a petition in asking for this and questions to be answered. But it is a good idea. I'm fully in favour of it. And this will show up now, possibly, who is in favour of the horse trams and who is not. Because the petition has to be picked up by MHK and progressed into government. It can't just because you put a petition in automatically go through. It's got to be, it can lie there for ages. It could lie there if they want it forever. But it has to be what they termed as picked up and progressed. And it'll be interesting to see just who, if anybody, picks up this petition and progresses it through Parliament, and what answers the DOI or whoever's in charge there was going to give to a public question.
Howard, there doesn't seem to be a face or a voice of opposition to the horse trams. Nobody's stood up and made themselves the voice of the opposition, if you like, just to say, we don't want the horse trams, finish them, stop it. So everybody seems to kind of tacitly agree with this and think it's a good idea, and we get warm words. So that, as you say, this may flush the people out.
Yeah, well, they've either got to pick it up and show their enthusiasm for the horse trams going through, and it actually says it should have gone through to the War Memorial. Well, it stopped short of there by 150 yards or more, and whether somebody within government will pick this petition up and carry it through. But I know a number, not a large number, but I know a number of MHKs, and one of them was quite adamant, vehement about it, that they should not be. And he's a recently elected MHK, that they should be done away with and they're a waste of time. And so I can't imagine his name will be amongst the people that's going to be picking this petition up. So it'll be interesting just to watch to see whether this man who put this petition in at Tynwald, which is the right of the people of the island, whether somebody within Tynwald and in the government will pick it up and progress it through. Just as I just mentioned to Chris, I don't normally watch football. I don't have a particular interest in it. But I think it was Saturday night, England playing Switzerland. And when they were come to do the penalty kickoffs, did anybody else notice in amongst all the England flags that were seen on the screen, there was a Manx flag?
Oh, yes. Yeah, spotted the Manx flag. You can't miss it.
You can't. No. And, well, I believe... in Germany, I used to go over to Germany quite a few times, and Barry would have told you this. We used to have on our sweaters the three legs of man.
Yeah.
And of course, people were looking at that because it's not dissimilar at first glance to the swastika. And the people there in Germany were looking at it, and then they realised it's only three legs. but because the swastika is illegal, it's banned in Germany. But the number of times, and then we realised what it was. We were going over as a group, and we had the three legs on our polo shirts. But it'd be interesting to see, if anybody else had spotted the three legs. And it's every time somebody went to take a penalty, the three legs would turn up. So that's a little bit of publicity for the island.
Well, you can guarantee the other three legs. I think the only other three legs in Europe, I think, is Sicily, isn't it?
That's right. Well, the Sicilian one, they're naked. The legs on that are naked, but the Manx ones, they have all the armour and the spurs, etc.
All right. Okay.
So,
well, it will be interesting to see regarding the horse trams, and once and for all, if something gets done. But of course, there's one thing that you may hear the politicians trotting out, Howard, in that, well, it's a bit close to a general election, and probably the other side of the election, and that's 2 years away.
Well, pardon the pun, as you would say, but trotting out is the word. We want to see them trotting out and all the way over to the sea terminal.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Howard. Good to hear from you. It was Mr. Knoll, Trevor Knoll from Onken, has called for the extension of the horse tram route. He believes the route should be extended back to the sea terminal, as appropriate funding and an approved plan have been available for this purpose for years. That was one of the Tynwald Day 2024 last Friday petitions. There were many others as well. Had a good time on Friday, and the weather was absolutely gorgeous if you were there. Did you get sunburnt too? David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just on the similar thing about the England game there the other day, I'd like to find out, if we can find from our listeners, who actually brought the flag and put it at the front and give them some praise. And I'd love the Isle of Man government to get onto the organisation that said they wanted it taken down. It should be done immediately, and give that organisation an education where the Isle of Man is and what it does. Because years ago, Alan Bell used to do all the work in going into Europe and other places. Eddie Tia did a bit as well. But I think we're missing all the time this getting out there to say, the Isle of Man can do this, the Isle of Man can do that. We can't do everything, but we do exist, and we're not punching above our weight.
And it's interesting. I mean, everywhere. I'm sure everybody knows this. Wherever you go in the world, you'll always meet somebody from the Isle of Man, or there'll be somebody who lives there from the Isle of Man. The Manx nation has reached out right across the world, way above its status, really. I mean, everywhere you go, there are Manx societies, there are Manx people, there are C's, K's and Q's here, there and everywhere. And I don't think we've got anything to be ashamed of as well.
No, nothing ashamed of. We're proud to be, it's like Howard said there, when clubs and organisations go across, they're wearing the three legs on their arms, their jackets, their shirts, everything that when we go across to...
And the other thing, of course, is that, we get tens of thousands of people come at the end of every May and into every June, and they spread out right across the world, so they're our ambassadors as well.
Maybe we should organise flags of the world. We did it some years ago in Onken, where we had all the brackets that were capable of taking flags. I remember organising, going to banks and organisations to see if we could have the Jamaican flag, this flag and another, and put them in the village. Onken started it off first of all, and I think I want that to come back, and because we have pride, don't we? When people come through the Isle of Man, the first thing they look at is the flags of the boat. You look at the new pier now in Liverpool, the three-leg symbol on that. Yeah,
you bet. And also the fact that we fly other nations' flags makes us international, and it's welcoming to people from that nation. If they come to the Isle of Man and see their flag fly, it makes them feel good. It's a warm feeling.
It does. So I'm looking for the Cabinet Office now to get involved and get hold of this organisation, and just a simple apology to the nation of the Isle of Man to say they got it wrong. And the great thing on Facebook was, this fellow needs to learn the history. And that's the question today. They learn the history before they open their mouth.
Okay.
Cheers, mate.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. 16 minutes past 12. Have you spotted? Let's find out. Do you know? Who knows who is flying the Manx flag at the England games this coming Wednesday? England take on Holland, the Netherlands. Fingers crossed. You never know. It's France versus Spain tomorrow and England versus Holland on Wednesday. My word. Are you getting much sleep these days? Please give a shout out to the late Manx cyclist Chris Higgins, who did so well at the Commonwealth Games many years ago, says Taz. Talking last week about when Cav broke Eddie Merckx's record, I mentioned Millie Robinson. Mildred Robinson, who was Irish-born but lived in the Isle of Man for years and years and sadly passed away on the island, who was a cyclist and won she won a Tour de France. A Manx cyclist won it was the women's Tour de France, the Tour de France Feminine in 1955 over 5 stages. And I mentioned that Millie Robinson was in business with Flash Howell's dad, Norman Howell and Robinson on Westmoreland Road. They were sign writers and painters. And also Paul said Millie was a prison officer at Victoria Road Prison. Won't say how I know. Your secret's safe with me, Paul. Thanks for that. But yes, quite a few people have got in touch just to say it was nice to hear a memory of Millie Robinson. Just an observation on the Manx flag flying at the football. The Isle of Man weren't playing, England was. So I felt as a Manxman it wasn't appropriate, says Ian on 817. Here's a message in saying I'd like all the MHKs against assisted dying to answer whether they will be prepared to visit the terminally ill people suffering terrible pain, says Sue, and explain to them face to face why they, the MHKs, have decided to ignore them and why the sufferers aren't important enough to be helped out of their agony. That's effectively, says Sue, what they're doing. They want to sit on the fence, turn a blind eye and hope it's going to disappear. We've all heard the harrowing personal stories. Just saying no doesn't stop the suffering. It says that they haven't got the guts, this is Sue's word, they haven't got the guts to get the bill sorted, so they pretend the suffering doesn't exist because they don't have to see it. No isn't an option, as this won't go away. For those thinking things might escalate, what are they saying? That they can't trust themselves or future MHKs to manage the service ethically? If that's the case, then really they shouldn't be in government. Regarding the horse trams, interesting that the planning application for the continuation of the seawall includes a map which includes the tram lines running to the sea terminal, says Trevor in Williston. S in Onken. Not understanding your tweet, S in Onken, but thanks for that. Send it again with proper words. There was a Manx flag flying by one of the stages at Glastonbury, also a few on the Tour de France, including when Cav got to the finish. Great to see, says Enid. Your messages in fact, and last Thursday, crikey, it's so long ago, it was last Thursday we were last chatting, there were many comments about the planners, really. It was also about what's happening, the amount of houses that are being built and where they're going to be built. And a comment on 068 who said, I can't believe the planners have given the permission for the houses at the Vollen. Says that. Well, thanks 068, but are we believing the Chief Minister when he says he wants 15,000 people? Another 15,000 people to get the population of the Isle of Man up to 100,000. And if so, it will be nice to know where they're going to live. Mark Cavendish is from Lonnon, says 134. So any statue should be in Lonnon, not Laxey. No, or Onken as well, says 134. That was Julie Edge, who was saying the MHK from Onken was saying there should be a statue of Mark Cavendish. She didn't say in Onken, did she? But it could be Lonham. Can we find out the name of the public liability insurers for the smart meters installed in our homes, says Crystal. Well, you just ask Manx Utilities. I'm sure they'll be able to tell you. I posted a birthday card on the 20th of October 2022 in Strand Street for an address in Ramsey, and it hasn't yet arrived, says Peter on 545. This was because a lot of people's postal votes for the UK election didn't arrive or only arrived at the last minute, so they were having to pay 10, 12 odd pounds to get their vote over to the UK. And lots of people saying that stuff is taking a long time. Now, these may well be isolated incidents or the exceptions that prove the rule that it's a good service. But it would be interesting to know. As yet, I've had a few people saying stuff is taking a long time, but it's not a torrent, that's all I'll say. You can opt out of smart meters, but they charge you £40 for the pleasure every time they read it, says Mary in Ramsey. Private nursing home monthly fee, $5,777. My mum was in one until recently, L on 535. And again, we were talking about this new care home, Summerhill View, the old Glenside on Glen Crutchery Road, that is going to be operated by LV Healthcare. We bought it, we paid for it, 15 million odd pounds, and now they're going to run it. But we don't really know what the terms are because they haven't told us yet whether or not LV are going to be selling a proportion of them for themselves and doing the rest for the government, and what, if anything, profit they're allowed to make. Thanks also to Crystal. She said, we're losing all our Manx interests. Industry's gone downhill from here. Perhaps people on the Isle of Man should start our own bank. The Manx Bank, all based in the Isle of Man with no ties to any other banks. Just a thought. Unfortunately, Crystal, any bank has to be tied to other banks. They have to be able to do business with other banks. We can't just sit here with our arms folded and start a bank. But it's a thought. And remember, when the Isle of Man Bank were busy closing down branches, there was a suggestion, just like I think it's Gibraltar have got their own bank. They start their own bank. And I think, does the government still bank with Isle of Man Bank? It's a thought anyway, Crystal. And Dougie's with us now. Hi, Dougie.
I do. I think the horse tram should be made to be put back.
Well, originally we were going to get them back. It's just that they never bothered. They're only halfway.
Well, it should be made to be put back.
Well, the Department of Infrastructure stopped halfway, and at the moment we don't quite know why they stopped.
Short of money.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always down to the money, isn't it? But I mean, is this something?
They have the money to do it, you see, before, eh?
Yeah, but the money I think got used for something else on the promenade.
Yes, well, they shouldn't have done. They should have. The tram should have been priority. Okay, all right, Dougie, thanks for that. We still haven't found out yet, by the way. Who was it? Now, somebody somewhere must have said they're not going forward, that the horse trams are going to stop. We will have a halfway horse tram by Castlemona Avenue, and that's that. Nobody has come forward to proudly stand forward and say, it was me. I did it. I said no. You remember at the time there were, crikey, how many infrastructure ministers were there? There was Ray Harmer, there was Tim Baker. They were all in there. But nobody said yet who stopped the horse trams from going. Care homes is just one more thing to add to the list of things that the government has messed up, says 935. Well, we do need care homes, don't we? Oh, Dick said, look, with anything in government that you get a quote for, you have to get 3 quotes. So who were the other two? Who were the other two that pitched for Summerhill View? Manx Care have obviously appointed LV. LV already operate in Ramsey. Surely it's, I found it, this is Dick's words, I found it condescending of the Manx Care executive to say it's good value for money, without a thought for those who've had their homes taken off them, sold to pay £1,500, £2,000 a week sometimes. The home will be charging, it's not rocket science, they'll be charging the same. Another example, how homeowners wind up paying whilst those who didn't scrimp and save for their own home get the care for free, before somebody says they paid tax for it. Well, so did homeowners who no longer have anything to pass on to their children. Is that good value for money, says Dick?
That's always a question that comes up, in that somebody who has built up a property and then has to sell it to fund their own care provision. If you can solve that one, I suggest you stand for keys. Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Hey, what a lovely day it is today, Andy.
It is
beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful. Blue skies. The sea's very flat calm outside at the moment.
It is lovely. I'm sat down at Peel at the moment, just going for a walk around the castle and see what's happening there, but it's lovely down here. But you didn't disappoint the other day at Tynwald, Andy. I've got to say, you had to have the prize for the best fitted suit out of everyone on the field there.
Well, thank you, Juan. It's very nice of you to say so.
I did have the sponge ready in case the ice cream dripped on it, but you didn't need it. You were well in control there. But the prize for the most uncomfortable MHK today must have been Laurie Hooper when the hymns were getting played in the church. I think the song by the Fun Boy Free came into mind. All lips are sealed. But there you go. I was interested there that the Fairfield was full, as you've seen. You were around the Fairfield quite a bit, but the stands were half empty. And I wonder what that's down to now. Is it just the apathy of the people with the government, or times changing? What do you put that down to? I mean, totally 50% of it was totally empty.
You have to say that when there's a Star Royal there, that the stands fill up. So it's worth saying that there were no big personalities on show. I mean, apart from our good and great from Tynwald and the captains of the parish and what have you. But I mean, when Princess Anne was there, it was quite full. When Prince Charles, as he was then, was there years ago, that was full. So it has to be said that if you get a big name there, and I'm not suggesting we get Simon Cowell or anything like that, but if you get a big name, but apart from that, remember, and I noticed, because a lot of people actually come to Tynwald Day when all the pomp and ceremonies finish.
Absolutely, and whoever's organised the day now and revamped it has done a very good job. I mean, the homecomers market at night time with the ceilidh and the band and everything is a fantastic event. The longevity of the day is great, and they've done a really good job on that. But it was very noticeable from the drone footage, even that the amount of spectators that were visibly looking at the ceremony. Yeah. But the actual Fairfield itself was a family day out. It was very busy. But
well, I think what interests me, I love Tynwald Day because it's a combination of everything that's Manx. First of all, you get the best cheese and onion sandwiches, you get a nice cup of tea. The politicians are there. There's the tradition of the church there. All the skeet in the world is going, and so's Manx Radio as well. So it's good fun. I enjoy Tynwald Day. You often see people you don't see for a year.
Oh, absolutely. And the Tynwald Day and the agricultural days, there's always people that you never see for 12 months of the year, and you meet them all on Tynwald Day. And it was just noticeable, and I didn't know whether it was just an apathy of people with politics and the government at the moment, or tradition slipping away. Just interesting. And I was listening this morning to the news report on Alf Cannon about the net zero law and not meeting their target by 2030. So I just wonder there, when this law came in, who signed that off, Andy? When was that actually signed off? Do we have a name, or is that another invisible person that actually signed off this to put this into law about net zero? And again, the people who the politicians are supposed to be working for, I don't remember them actually, getting involved in that.
I'm trying to remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it might have been in Mr. Quayle's administration.
Yeah, well, the last two administrations has done the island no favours at all, I don't think. But again, these people run for the hills. They've signed these laws off. And my question would be, it's just touching back on the wind turbines without going into too much depth. Is the government now prepared? Because they're saying about saving face in the national scheme of things. Are the government prepared to leave the Alaman people with a lot of debt or not enough power supply just to save face? in this so-called law on net zero. And this is the question that I keep asking the politicians. What agenda are you following? And whose agenda are you following? Not necessarily for the benefit of the Manx people here, I would like to say. And that kind of came out this morning with that statement. Obviously, a prominent statement from the PR office there on a rebuttal of what's been happening over the last 2 or 3 weeks with Paul Burgess, etc. So it's an interesting statement that's been sent out from the Cabinet Office.
It was 2022, Joan, the climate change brackets interim target number 2 regulations 2022 approved by Tynwald. It was where the Council of Ministers makes the following recommendations under sections 10 to 3A, 4 and 30 of the Climate Change Act 2021. And so that's it. These regulations are the Climate Change Regulations 2022. So it was that's when it all happened. That's when we gave ourselves the target.
And again, like I said, who signed this off? I know it was the Quayle administration, but, what advice did they get and where it's signed off? And I think we've said this before about most people who had this green agenda given to them last time when the politicians went in. But I don't think they actually realised where this could possibly take us and the complications that's involved with it. But at least if the wind turbines don't work, we've got smart meters fitted so the MUA can govern our electric for us if we have an outage.
My word. I got a message in from 835, said Juan. One way to make Tynwald Day more popular, we should have Milky Quayle opening it, riding up on a bike.
Followed by Mark Cavendish on his bike.
There you are. That's it. You pack the stands, wouldn't you?
There you go. I mean, Mark's got the edge there because he's more green and environmental friendly with a push bike.
Right. Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. All the best to you. Frank said, my wife and I used to use the boats often 4 or 5 times a year, but now we don't use them just because it's the high cost, says Frank. We were talking about the cost of the steam packet and the fact that we own it, and the Chief Minister says something may be done. There's a bit of leverage in there. Yes, it is. Climate Change Interim Target number 2 regulation. There were 2 of them. The first one said the 2030 interim target is the Council of Ministers must ensure the Isle of Man net zero emissions account for the year 2030 is 35% lower than the baseline, and the 2035 interim target is that the net Isle of Man emissions account for the year 2035 is at least 45% lower than the baseline. And they were both signed off by Coldrick Randall, Mr. C. Randall, the interim chief secretary at the time. So that's when they came in 2022, complying with the Climate Change Act 2021. Outstanding work from Manx Utilities on Johnny Watterson's Hill at the weekend, says this texter. The planning application for the Sulby Riverside estate and pub will go ahead. Says Frank, money talks. Is that so? With all developers, unless you want to develop on North Quay, a 2-tier system exists. Well, that actually, it's been brightened up quite a bit. I think the developers have put some nice green and yellow tarpaulin around it, so it looks certainly better than it was. And it didn't look much, did it, before? But obviously North Quay isn't going ahead, but there are other estates that are going ahead. I work for DOI Railway, says Derek. Nobody's interested. They're a waste of time and money. The staff in the stables, I think, this is Derek's view, are massively overpaid for the little work they do. Where they go is far enough. Nobody's interested in the trams. Keep them where they are. The trams are a pain. The horse trams are a pain when you're trying to get down the prom. With the prom as new parking doesn't help at all. Well, they knew that, didn't they? They knew. They never told us at the beginning that doing Douglas Promenade up was basically a traffic calming measure and withdrawing some of the parking. They didn't tell us that right at the beginning. They told us, of course, they were going to put that pink strip down the middle where the horse tram tracks used to go. And, of course, the horse trams used to slow down traffic. But now they're slowing down traffic anyway. So we had a traffic calming measure before. It was called the horse trams. Mr. Cannon, it's obvious climate targets will be missed, says G. Nothing else has come in on target, to specification or in budget. Well, G, I beg to differ. The Manxman came in on budget and on target, but of course that was built in South Korea. I'm reliably informed the Manx flag was Paul Mitchinson, a Manx, Newcastle United and England fan, says Jamie. Well, we'll give him a Manx Radio mug if he can get in touch, because I think it looks great. And Wilf's on now. Hi, Wilf.
Hi, did I just hear something about the Riverside development going ahead?
Well, no, I think it goes to planning today.
Oh, right. Oh, well, that's not so bad then, because if they go to pass that, they will rue the day that they ever did. That's anybody involved in it.
Yeah, the people behind it, this guy, this project director for whoever they are, the people who did it, said he couldn't understand why everybody was so negative about it.
Oh, we're negative, are we? Right. Well, the thing is, you see, I've been around a long, long time, and there's a lot of people in Ramsey been around a long, long time too, and they've seen what I've seen, and they've seen that whole area really badly flooded. And if you put a spine road, there's a drain the other side of that. You can't put a solid bund wall, if you like, and a road on top of it and hold that back. It'll just fill up like a lake. There's a drain from the hills under there. Well, but the thing is,
the developers said there were misunderstandings about their plans.
Misunderstandings, okay. There's only one way to build on there, and that's dump thousands and thousands of tons of rubble and build up on top of that and make an island of it. But then you then put the water the other side of the river and flood the houses on the other side, which are only just above the river now. They were supposed to, the people who are going to do this, they were supposed to, way back, introduce me to this flood management man that they've got. And it never happened. And they promised that themselves, and it never happened. And all I was going to do was take them round and show them what I'd seen, where it had flooded, and then make your mind up. But it never happened.
So what should happen to that site, Wilf? Is there anything that can be done with that site? Make it into a nature reserve or something, or what?
Well, it's a nature reserve now, sort of. Because it's been left along, well, all my life it's been the same. Nothing's ever been touched there apart from the Pull Dewey scheme that used to be a tip down there, and that used to flood regular. But they built it up so that people can walk their dogs and things down there, and the trees that grew on it and everything. So, but that's the lowest part. But when Dandara built on the fields at the back of that, they built out as far as they wanted to go, and then that was like a cliff face left. Now, the tide and the river used to go in there. Now it can't go in there because it only go up to that cliff face, and that's your lot. And they want to build below the cliff face. It's just, well, obviously they don't know what they're doing. It's as simple as that.
Well, I mean, they do know what they're doing. They want to build 200 houses, and we know why. I mean, they're in business to make money, aren't they?
Of course, but they want to get them built before they get flooded.
Okay. All right.
Because it'll happen again. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Okay. Appreciate it, Will. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Good to hear from you. This is the developers behind the £40 million Sulby River estate say they're hopeful that any misunderstandings about their plans have now been cleared up. Now, there had been concerns for this application. 200 houses, 200 homes and a pub at Ballacring. That apparently would impact the salt marshes at Pull Dewey Nature Reserve. Now, revised proposals have been submitted after the initial idea was refused by the planners. Josh Church is the project director, and he simply couldn't understand why people didn't think it was a good idea. Text, email, call and WhatsApp on Mannin Line today. Maybe if we stop old age pensioners riding the bus for free, they could bring the price of the bus fares down, says Des. It was interesting, and hopefully, I don't know whether you recall, but Devon Watson, the Labour councillor for Douglas City Council, Devon Watson, when he was on Mannin Line, was it last year, talked about the fact that the cost of the buses is about £5 million. So you could give, for £5 million, you could give free bus for everybody. You could use the buses absolutely for free. Just get one of these little cards or something, tap in, tap out, and they'd know that you weren't abusing it. But for £5 million, we could all use the buses for free. And if you could use the bus for free, I'd just ask you, would you? Would you use the bus for free? Don't blame the banks. It's the government who's telling the banks what information they need to get. And the banks are doing it, or the government will fine them. So if anybody's to blame, it's the government. This is the fact, Paul. That is 008. The fact that some people have been getting very stroppy letters from Alaman Bank, and I think RBSI as well. But then again, RBSI did get fined by the financial conduct people on the Isle of Man. So maybe they're just passing the hurt along. Government doesn't want to pay wages for nursing home staff because, as a government worker, they're on a better rate than a private company. Is this the reason then that they're contracting it out so the private companies pay lower wages than the government? There was a meeting held at Reartna Bay on Monday, discussed assessing and moving people, but Mrs. Cope, who from Manx, who was supposed to be there, apparently didn't turn up. That's not my words. That's G on 313. Gordon's on now. Hi, Gordon.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. I wanted to have a bit of a whinge about the steam packet and the lack of newspapers on this island on a Sunday morning every week at the moment. On a Saturday night, at the moment, the boat goes to Belfast or Dublin, and instead of going to Heysham, with the result that the newspapers are coming on Sunday's Mannin, which doesn't get in here till 2 o'clock. By the time the newspapers have gone down to Ballasalla, been sorted, and out on the road, they don't get to Ramsey, where I live, till between 4 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
But time was, Gordon, when they used to be flown here. Do you remember?
I got in touch with White's about this a few months ago, because I was always under the impression that White's paid for the shipping of the papers. They told me they don't. The publishers pay for the shipping.
Right.
And they're not prepared to pay the cost of a plane.
Did they say how much it was?
No.
Because it will be interesting to know if they could get them to a plane. So the fact is that Sunday papers are one of the pillars of civilization.
Well, this is one of the pleasures of my life, is I lie in on a Sunday, a leisurely breakfast, and then read the papers. But my point I'd like to make is that I think the steam packet, the sailings to Ireland, instead of going to Heysham, they should be, in addition to going to Heysham, they've got the Ben McCree sat there doing nothing. Why can't it do the Irish sailings?
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. All right, Gordon, thanks for that. All the best. Good to hear from you. I just wonder whether you miss Sunday papers. Do you like looking at the Sunday papers? I like reading Sunday papers. I like the sport in Sunday papers. About 12 pages of it. Lasts you absolutely ages. It's 16 minutes before 1.
Dreaming of a family adventure? Loganair has you covered with our Kids Fly Fare Free offer. Start planning today. Limited time offer booked by 9th July. T's and C's apply. Children aged 11 and under eligible and must fly with full fare paying accompanying adults. Book today at loganair.co.uk. Loganair, your journey, our joy.
Right, I say, when you're looking for the perfect bathroom, get your silly walk over to Pacesetter, where you'll get friendly help and advice on bathrooms that will work for you. From practical, accessible bathrooms for aging users to the ultimate in luxury designs with walk-in showers and wet rooms, with no inquisitions, dead birds or hard sell. You'll always be on the bright side of life when you see the stunning range on display at Pacesetter Tile and Bathroom Studio, Harris Terrace, Douglas, or search online for Pacesetter Douglas.
Crossroads Isle of Man.
The Crossroads Manx Workshop helps islanders with disabilities and health conditions, providing paid employment, making a range of high-quality products. From benches and shelves to cabinets and tables. Our team also work on custom projects, such as engraving and company seals. Pop into our workshop in Douglas.
Crossroads Isle of Man.
Visit crossroadsiom.org.
Hello, I'd like to rent a car for 3 days. Just something reasonable.
No problem at all. We've just a few rules. You can't go off island, you can't smile in the car, you can't take any friends. Oh, and it's £10,000 a day.
Renting a car doesn't need to be difficult or expensive. With prices from just £50 per day and now collection and drop-off at the airport and Douglas, speak to Rex Rental Company or book online at rexrental.im.
Rex Rentals. I'm so glad to hear that.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Master Mai, good afternoon. Let's go to Margaret with us now. Hi, Margaret.
Hello. I'm listening into your programme today to see just what on earth is going on with the flights and the no papers at the weekend. We all need those papers. And why does that have to go to Belfast first? Should they not come by plane or something?
Well, as that Gordon mentioned, the fact that the newspaper publishers, the people who publish, print, that they used to pay for the papers to be flown here, and now that because newspapers aren't making as much money, in fact, loads of them are losing money, so they're not paying for it anymore. So the wholesalers then decided to put them on the boat, and if the boat doesn't sail from Heysham, then we don't get the papers. That's where it works.
Well, that's great, isn't it? I mean, it is the Isle of Man with, 8,500 people here. I mean, we need it. We need those papers. Keeps us alive,
So which paper do you read on a Sunday?
Well, the Mail on Saturday and Sunday.
Right. And what about when they say that Sunday's papers are going to be available on Monday? Does that cut any ice with you?
Well, no, not really, because the Saturday and Sunday papers have got the what's on the television. So they've got television pages which they don't have in as great detail on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, whatever.
Oh dear. Okay. All right.
Yeah, well, I know.
Just one of those things, isn't it? It's a bit of civilization dribbling away, Margaret.
It's not on, really.
Right.
It's not on.
Thanks for calling today. It's good to hear from you.
Right. Just thought I'd put my spoke in.
Glad to hear you. 13 minutes to 1, and Pam's on now. Hi, Pam.
Hi, love. What I've got to moan about is the closure of these community post offices, for people to get their pensions and that. First of all, I was in Crosby Terrace. They closed that and they moved us to Windsor Road. And now Windsor Road is closed. It only has one disabled park outside at Windsor Road, but now they're moving us to the spa on the corner of the main road. It's like a forecourt. There's always cars parked there. Yeah. There's no disabled. For people like myself, I am disabled, but I'm not the only one. And they're just moving us old people round anywhere they want a bit of business. It's disgusting. These community post offices, they weren't just post officers. If you weren't there for a week and you had nobody, and these posts like a Phil Braidwood and Crosby Terrace, they'd send somebody round to make sure we were all right. Now, you're not going to get that in a spa shop.
No, well, as you say, I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Braidwood have been at Windsor Road now for, crikey, how long? 30 plus years?
I'll tell you, and lovely, lovely staff, I'll tell you. But if you're not there in 1 week and nobody's seen you, they used to say, so we'll get so-and-so to pop round to make sure they're all right. I mean, there's a lot of old people, not me, I've got a husband here, but there's a lot live on their own. They could be lying dead now.
Oh, crikey.
Because all they're doing now is putting us round to a spa shop.
Yeah.
Now, it's disgusting. Now, that Stu Peters or whatever his name is, he had a lot to say at one time. Now you don't hear him. And he's one of them in charge of the post office.
Oh, he certainly is. Yes. In fact, we'll put that to Mr. Peters. See what he has to say, Pam.
It's discussed, and the community, if they lose Williston next, you've had it.
All right.
The
Okay.
older people, because we're all getting older, kidder. We're all getting older.
That's for certain. All right. Thanks, Pam. Good to hear from you.
Young at heart, but getting older. Bye, love. Bye.
Oh, Chester, it was so easy selling all those old valuables all in one go with Vintage Cash Cow. Join over 500,000 people turning watches, jewellery, cameras, gold, silver and much more into cash. Send your items to Vintage Cash Cow, fully insured with free postage. Accept the offer and enjoy the money, or we'll return your items for free. We can go on holiday now, Chester. Visit vintagecashcow.co.uk.
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells skips will bring to you.
At Tells Skip Hire and Waste Disposal in Snugborough, you only pay for the waste you bring. For waste disposal and skips, give us a call on 677 137. That's 677 137. Visit Tells today or find Tells Limited on Facebook.
Call Tells Skips today.
677 137. Qplus.co.il.
Q Plus is much more than a plumbing and heating trade counter. Come and explore the largest bathroom showroom on the island, where we're always updating our displays and stocking the latest bathroom designs and trends to make sure we have just what you're looking for. Visit Q Plus on Snugborough Trading Estate or find us on Facebook to see some fabulous bathroom inspiration.
Qplus.co.il. Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. It's 8 minutes before 1. Because it's Monday and it's our 60th anniversary year, there's something from the archive. And, well, the name Alan Jackson, what does it mean to you? Jacko, Alan Jackson, was a long-time Manx radio presenter before he left the Isle of Man and went to work in Liverpool. He was on BBC Radio Merseyside for years and years and years. And if you remember Jacko, did you know he once recorded, he actually made a record, and we're going to play it. It's true. I know, it's something else. So Alan Jackson's record is on after Mannin Line today. I don't know whether you know, one of the other interesting things about Alan, his daughter, Amy, who was born in the Isle of Man, is a massive film star in India. She makes Tamil films. Amy Jackson, who was born to Alan and Margarita, and now she's very, very big. I think since 2010 she's been making films in the Indian subcontinent. She's an absolute star. She's got a couple of films, I think, coming out this year in Hindi and in Tamil. Jacko's daughter, Amy. Fascinating story, and you can hear more from Jacko on. In fact, most times you can't shut Jacko up. And he had a long and distinguished career to prove it as well. Thank you, Perry. You just said, Andy, you very quickly told us who are the two new non-execs of the Steam Packet. Who were they? One was an MHK, you said. Yes, it was. Bill Shimmons served as an MHK for Middle between 2016 and 2021. Political member for Treasury when it purchased the Steam Packet. And Amanda Bindon is chair of Laxey Glen Mills. Previously was at Waitrose and Pizza Hut UK, but their appointments are subject to approval at this month's sitting of Tynwald. So they're the new non-exec MHK members of the Steam Packet Board. That's it. I had loads to talk about, including Eskdale House in Onca, but more of that tomorrow. We're open line. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
WINT.
60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
Now, this is one of those items where I would suggest the best approach is just sit back, enjoy. It's a song from Manx Radio long-time presenter, Jolly Body, Alan Jackson. I defy you not to smile.
Bright lights and sights are waiting here for you. The Isle of Man's a place where there's so much to see and do. From Liverpool, Belfast, Ardrossan, across the Irish Sea, via Mona's Queen, Manxman, Manxmaid, or Rhondda Ben Macquarie, you will see bright lights and pretty sights are waiting here for you. The Isle of Man's the place where there's so much to see and do. Douglas has her tram cars, by horses they are drawn. At night time singing, dancing if you want to through till dawn. The hills roll down to the sea, the beauty's all around. Relax, enjoy the Isle of Man from the airs down to the sound. Where you'll see bright lights and pretty sights are waiting here for you. The Isle of Man's a place where there's so much to see and do. Ramsey has her beach so long, its pier the longest too. There's Peel, Sunset City, Tynwald and the Wildlife Zoo. Across the ferry bridge there's Castletown with all its history. The picturesque Port Erin, the lovely Port St. Mary. The hills roll down to the sea, the beauty's all around. Relax, enjoy the Isle of Man from the airs down to the sound. Bright lights and pretty sights are waiting here for you. The Isle of Man's a place where there's so much to see and do. Bright lights and pretty sights are waiting here for you. The Isle of Man's a place where there's so much to see and do. For me and for you.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.